the political scene across the Pacific has entered a tense new chapter. Japan's recent election made history when Sai Takai emerged as the nation's first woman to hold the office of prime minister. A victory that not only broke barriers, but also sent ripples through the global balance of power. Her rise to leadership marked the end of a predictable era, and the beginning of one defined by defiance and bold diplomacy. From the moment she assumed power, Takai made clear that Japan would no longer stand quietly in America's shadow. Her decision to confront Washington, and Donald Trump himself, stunned analysts worldwide, as she openly rejected decades of U.S. dominance in regional economic policy. Insiders in Japan's foreign ministry revealed that Takai wasted no time setting a new tone. In one of her first closed-door sessions, parts of which soon leaked to the press, she stated that Japan would continue to be an ally of the United States, but never again its subordinate. That message traveled fast, landing in Washington like a thunderclap. American officials reportedly took her words as an indirect warning, a signal that Tokyo's new government intended to defend its national interests with unprecedented firmness. The White House had expected continuity and compliance, yet Takai's leadership style was anything but. Her approach blended cooperation with calculation, offering friendship when respected, and resistance when pushed. According to sources close to the Trump administration, Takai directly informed the U.S. ambassador that Japan's partnership would hinge on mutual respect. If Washington chose equality, their alliance would stay intact. But if America continued weaponizing tariffs, Japan would respond where it hurt most: the U.S. financial system. Analysts at Nikkei Asia highlighted that Japan, being one of the top foreign holders of U.S. Treasury bonds, holds enormous leverage. A decision to reduce or diversify even a portion of its investments could trigger market chaos, drive up interest rates, and raise borrowing costs across the United States. Reports from Bloomberg indicate that Tokyo's Ministry of Finance has already formed a strategic unit to explore ways to lessen dependence on the dollar and expand the global use of the yen. This initiative, though framed as economic, carries unmistakable political weight. For the first time since the post-war reconstruction, Japan appears ready to pursue an independent monetary direction, signaling that its policies will no longer be dictated by Washington. Experts at the East Policy Review describe this as a direct counter to Trump's tariff hikes. Measures that slapped 35% duties on Japanese exports ranging from automobiles to electronics. For an economy built on trade, those actions were interpreted not as policy, but as provocation. Still, Takai's stance is not driven by hostility. Her vision, officials say, is to restore balance in a partnership long tilted in America's favor. Her administration is drafting a proposal for joint investments to replace conflict with cooperation, while simultaneously deepening economic ties with Asian partners like China, India, and the ASEAN nations. These new trade routes will operate in local currencies, gradually diminishing the dominance of the US dollar. It is Japan's first open move toward de-dollarization, a strategic step meant to reshape the Pacific's financial order around multiple currencies, rather than one. According to Reuters' Tokyo bureau, the idea of elevating the yen as a key regional currency was first discussed during a meeting of the Economic Security Council, led by the Prime Minister. A confidential document from that session, later leaked to the press, stated that the age of single-currency supremacy is ending. For Tokyo, this represents independence long overdue. For Washington, it is a subtle but serious challenge. Analysts at HSBC Asia project that if even part of Asia shifts its trade settlements to yuan-based systems, global demand for the US dollar could fall by up to 7% within 5 years, a blow that could severely strain America's budget deficit. Meanwhile, U.S. officials are growing uneasy. Trump's team is reportedly considering counter-responses, including a reassessment of the security agreement that governs American military bases in Japan. Yet the Pentagon has warned that such pressure could destabilize the entire security network the U.S. has maintained in Asia since World War II. Japan remains America's most crucial strategic foothold in the Pacific. But under Sai Takai's leadership, it is clear that Tokyo no longer sees itself as a follower. It is stepping forward as an equal. A nation prepared to define its own path, even if that means redrawing the balance of power in the Pacific. For decades, Washington believed Tokyo would always remain its steadfast ally. But that assumption is beginning to crack. A quiet but profound shift is unfolding in Japan, and it's one that could redraw the balance of power across the Pacific. Losing Japan's loyalty wouldn't just be a diplomatic setback, it would open a wide corridor for Beijing, which has long waited for the moment to push America's influence out of the region. Inside Japan, a new wave of nationalism is rising with surprising speed. The election of Prime Minister Sai Takai didn't just change who leads the country. It changed how the country sees itself. Young politicians, inspired by her unapologetic vision, are rallying behind an idea of Japan that stands on its own, A Japan that builds, funds, and defends its future without foreign crutches. Across state-run networks, talk of economic patriotism now fills the airwaves. And in Parliament, voices grow louder, demanding the country wean itself off American technology and weapons. According to Asahi Shimbun, lawmakers are preparing a bill that would fuel domestic manufacturing of semiconductors, advanced batteries, and electronics, a direct challenge to U.S. tech giants like Intel and Tesla, whose profits depend heavily on the Japanese market. In Washington, the reaction was swift and personal. Sources close to Donald Trump say he saw Takaichi's policies as a betrayal. Behind closed doors, he reportedly fumed that if Japan wanted to act independent, it should pay the price. Those words ignited outrage in Tokyo, where many viewed them as a warning and an insult. So, the Japanese defense minister fired back publicly, declaring that Japan needs no guidance from anyone and will defend its national interests by every means available. As tensions simmered, Japan began quietly building new bridges. Strategic partnerships with South Korea and Australia started taking shape, forming what observers now call an informal triangle, a coalition that could reduce the entire region's economic dependence on the United States. Western analysts have already given it a name: the New Asian Renaissance. Reports from the Global Economic Forum suggest Tokyo and Seoul are close to launching a joint innovation fund that could exceed $200 billion in capitalization, a move that could permanently shift the center of technological gravity in Asia. For Washington, the implications are dire. Economists at Moody's Analytics warn that if Tokyo begins trimming its holdings of U.S. bonds, others may follow. South Korea, Taiwan, even cautious European investors unsettled by Trump's unpredictability could spark a financial chain reaction. The markets are already uneasy. The dollar-yen exchange rate has shown its wildest swings since 2015. But beneath the surface, this conflict runs deeper than numbers and markets. As Financial Review Asia points out, it's a battle of belief systems. American protectionism clashing with Japanese pragmatic nationalism. Takaichi herself embodies that contrast. Raised in a family steeped in samurai discipline, she often speaks of resilience, of dignity through strength. Her phrase, "Power is not a threat, power is honor," has become a national mantra, echoing across universities, political rallies, and television debates. Many see her as the voice of a new Japan, one unwilling to repeat the compromises of the past. Historians draw uneasy parallels with the 1980s, when Washington forced Tokyo to sign the Plaza Accord, a deal that plunged Japan into years of stagnation. But this time the landscape is different. Japan today is not a follower, but a contender. Home to cutting-edge industries, vast financial reserves, and a leader unafraid to challenge the global order. What the world is witnessing is more than a political rift. It's the rebirth of a nation discovering its own voice. Japan is shedding decades of quiet obedience and stepping onto the world stage with new conviction. And if Washington fails to adapt, the rift between the two powers could widen into the greatest crisis in U.S.-Japanese relations since the Second World War. As The Economist Asia observes, Takaichi is dismantling one of the last myths of American diplomacy: the belief that Japan would forever remain a silent partner. She is proving, line by line and policy by policy, that the era of deference is over, and a new Japan has arrived.